everybody, welcome back to the Claremont Classic Garage. Today is going to be part 3 in our video series where we swap the transmission in our Grand Caravan here and do a bunch of other work to it. Today we've made it to the do a bunch of other work part of the program, and we'll see when we get to the end of this if we're going to do the start it up and make sure it works part. I'm not sure. I don't want to end up making a too long of a video, right? But we'll see how it goes. First thing we're going to do here is get these front brakes back together. First thing is to get the ABS wires. We got the brackets set back on, and we got to put 2 little bolts in. Then we can put the backing plate on. Here's our freshly turned rotor. We got it on the hub. I just hold it on with one nut, so it just so it stays steady while we put it together. And if you're going to do this, put something behind it, because these nuts generally aren't tall enough, and you'll run the thing down and the stud will poke through the top there. Don't ask me how I know. All right, got the caliper adapter mounted in the vise, and we're going to get this thing ready to go. First thing we're going to do is service the sliders. Your brake pads will come with a thing of this Mully brake lube. You can also buy it in a tube, like a big tube of it if you want at the auto parts store. Now these little rubbers, see that you just give them a twist and pull, and we're going to make sure there's not a bunch of rust and crap in there. These are actually in really nice shape, and we're just going to put a little bit of this stuff on there, get it worked in, and then you just twist and push and the rubber will pop back on. Same thing on this one. And this is the one with the, if you clean this all up, there's a little rubber O-ring on the end of this one. Many times, these things will get the rubbers crack or break or whatever, or otherwise become compromised. They let water get in there, and these things will seize solid. And, well, that's not pretty. Usually wrecks the rotor, the pads, everything. Okay, so now we're going to spin it around and start working on the actual pads. Okay, we'll start by knocking that. I mean, these things, I'll show you what goes wrong with these. But this pad is just about seized in here. Look at that. So I'll show you what the problem is with that. First, we got to get these things out. These little stainless steel wear surfaces. So you see all that rust and scale and stuff in there? That builds up behind these things. Hang on, let me get a hold of it right. That builds up behind these things and usually literally starts squeezing them like that, which squeezes on the tab on the end of the brake pad and literally seizes the brake pad. Yeah, that's no good. So we're going to get in here with a nice file and we're going to clean these all out. Okay, so let's get in there and you'll see all the junk come out. The brakes on these newer cars are a lot tighter than the brakes on the older cars. I don't know if it's because they want to cut down on noise and clicking, or if the brakes have to be that tight and precise so that the ABS works properly. I'm not really sure, but it causes a lot of problems up here in our salty, wintry climate. Might work good in Nevada. Doesn't work so well here. Okay, now we got those cleaned up. So now we're going to smear some anti-seize in there. Hopefully it'll protect it for a little while. It's just a matter of time till these things start rusting again. There's not much you can do about it. And then we're going to pop these little guys in. And then we install these little things with the little tails, these little tails outboard. So that one goes on there like that. Whoops. Well, that's that in. And we need one more, folks. This one. There. Okay, now we got our new brake pads. They're around here somewhere. Oh, look. Here they are. And then we got to get these things popped into here. Come on. Very interesting. These things are a pain in the neck. There we go. And we're just going to make sure that these things are free, nice and free in there. If they're not, you can go around and file these down a little bit, because they get, when they're punched, they're stamped, they're pretty rough. They get a little burr on them, and sometimes that'll impede the brake pad and make it kind of stick, you know. But these ones are okay. They're pretty free in there. Come on, get in there. Man, I got the other one in. There we go. Okay. Now we can go slide this over the rotor. Alrighty. Now we can slowly, or gently at least, lower that down over there. And get our bolts started in. I'll have to run over to my manual and look up the torque on these bolts. There we go. Okay, I'll be right back. The caliper adapter bolts around the back torqued up to 125 foot-pounds, so we did that. Now we're going to get the old piston returner tool out here and very slowly push these pistons back. There's an actual proper tool to use for this, but we don't have one. You just have to be careful doing it this way, because you don't want to nick or chip the pistons, and you want to make sure you push them in straight. And see what happens, because they're dual piston calipers. It takes a little bit, because when I push this one in, this one comes back out a bit. But you do it after a couple of times, you'll get them both back in. There we go. Just about there. That one's all the way in. There. Okay. All right, now making sure we haven't got the hose twisted. We can put our caliper back on. The brake hose on this side is a little bit of a mess, because from having the K-frame out, it's disconnected from the frame. We'll fix that after. And then we'll get our slider bolts. I have to look up in the book what these are supposed to torque to. I think 21 or something. Lanny sees. Okay. Bear with me. We'll find out what to torque these little guys to. $26 is the magic number on these, apparently. Then all I got left to do is get the actual brake lines back bolted to the chassis, and that'll be this side done. All right, got the brake lines and the ABS wire all back bolted to the chassis. Looks great. Everything's good. So what I'm going to do now, I got to go do the other side of the front, and I'm going to do the rears. If I find anything untoward on any of those three wheels, I'll let you know. Otherwise, it's just more of the same, and I'll see you when I'm done. All right, so the back brakes went pretty well. Nothing really too exciting there. It was pretty much just the same as the front. So that's all done. I'm putting the wheels back on now. And while we're at it, we're going to put the summer wheels back on. There's no need for the snow tires to be on it anymore. There's still maybe 2 or 3 weeks where we could possibly get some snow. But we've got the Subaru outside and it's still got its winter tires on it. So our butt is covered. So now we could drop a punch down in the rotor so it won't turn. And we're going to buzz these nuts up to 118 foot-pounds. Now, theoretically, it's a locking nut. They should be single use, but everybody just puts them back on anyway. In the old days, it had a little cap that went over it and a cotter pin, right? But they did away with that and just started using these single-use lock nuts. But honestly, I torqued up lots of these and never had one come back off yet. So, oh, hello, Cooper. So we'll do it what works for us. These two, more than anybody, are wondering when they're going to get their van back. They miss going on trips. Now we're going to change this serpentine belt. While it's off, we'll give anything that turns a spin and make sure we haven't got any bad bearings or anything. Sometimes these things go bad, but it doesn't look too bad. I'm just changing the belt on spec because I'm in here. It didn't really have any trouble, but it is 9 years old. Regardless of miles, you know, that will eventually catch up to them. So to get it off, it's hard to film this while I do it, but we stick a tool in there. You can use a ratchet, a breaker bar, or an actual belt tool. We're going to overcome the spring tension that way, pull the belt off, and then put the new belt on. Well, everything in here spins nicely. The tensioner is free, moving back and forth. Sometimes they'll seize, but we got no worries here. Everything turns. Last thing is the AC compressor clutch. That's nice and quiet too. So we can go ahead and flip our new belt on, and then I guess we can put this plastic panel back on the frame rail here, and we can move on to our next job. All right, there's our new belt. And you just, once you get these things on, you just go around and make sure it's actually lined up in all the pulleys, because they're multi-groove pulleys. And sometimes they can get off a groove and they may not necessarily fix themselves if the pulleys are far enough apart. And you'll wipe out your belt in short order. And now I have a new problem. It's going to be very difficult to get any work done today because CFTV... that's 586 on your Bell dish. The greatest channel in Canada is doing a Kung Fu marathon. And it's one of my favorite TV shows ever. So I'm doing more watching Kane than I am working. But hey, we're having a good time. We had it so good, man, in the 70s as kids. We had Kung Fu, The $6 Million Man, Emergency, Adam 12, reruns of Batman, reruns of Star Trek. It was just an awesome time to be in front of the TV, and so many other great shows that I forget all about. But those are definitely some of my favorites. Oh, Starsky and Hutch, awesome. And then later there were some good shows that came along later too, like Magnum and the Dukes. But those ones from the early 70s, they're the best, and the late 60s in some cases. We got our little plastic baffle back in, and I just realized they give you a little door here so you can get at the crankshaft bolt to turn the engine by hand without having to pull this whole thing down. I guess you just break this thing out if you had to. Interesting. But anyway, look, my proudest moment. We had all this stuff apart, and all I got left to do is put the front wheels back on, and all I got left is the nuts for the front wheels. That's pretty good, eh? So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change the engine oil and the air filter. I don't know how old it is. I'm just going to start fresh. And we got a cabin air filter for it. I'm also going to change the coolant and put a set of spark plugs in it. The spark plugs apparently are good to up to 160,000 kilometers. Maybe I won't do that. That's 60,000. You know how long it'll take me to put 60,000 kilometers on this van? Yeah, that's dumb. The damn things are about 12 bucks a piece, eh? So yeah, so we'll just leave that for now. But I do want to change the coolant because the car is 9 years old now. I think this stuff that they put in it is rated for 10. It's in here, up in the air now. Let's nip that in the bud. And yeah, first thing we're going to do is get this off and get at this filter. Doesn't look too complicated, does it? A few clippy things and a hose. Well, that's one of the odder filters we'll see. Yeah, it doesn't look too old, but you know what? We got a new one sitting here, so we'll change it. There we go, a nice new Wix filter. Beauty. This is the best show, man. Going to the changed oil. And this, people, is why I never like anybody touching my car. The drain plug for the oil pan is round. Probably from people repeatedly ramming it in with a freaking impact gun. So now we'll have to see what we're going to do about that. I'll see if I got something that I can grab this thing with. Okay, I finally got this bloody drain plug loose. Now let's see what comes out of this thing. Allegedly, they serviced it when I got it, but I don't know, it's oil. Who knows what it is, but we'll get it out of there and put some new stuff in. And I guess we have to come up with a new drain plug too. Man, thank goodness for these things. These things save your life when you need them. If you do not have a set of these, get yourself a set. They're very, very handy. Look at that thing. I'm going to go out back. I've still got the engine that we took out of the other van that we parted out. I'm going to see what the drain plug looks like in it. Otherwise, I guess we'll be making a trip to the dealer to get one. It'll probably be about $80 or something. Success! Our scrap engine coughed up a good drain plug. Perfect. Well, that thing is still draining. You can see here on top. Oh, flash. There we go. Here's our oil filter. It's on top. I actually have two cars with the filter on top now. This and the Subaru. That's kind of handy. You can see there's a hex on it. I think there's a special socket you can buy, but guess what? It's just 15/16. There we go. Now, here's a Kevin car tip. If you own an engine, a vehicle with a Pentastar engine in it, next time you're in the pick and pull junkyard, grab one of these caps and just keep it around, because invariably somebody is going to break one or crack one or something. And for the couple of bucks they'll charge you for this at the junkyard, it's good to have one kicking around. Now our filter is in here. Come on. It's got an O-ring that pops in on. And there's what you have. Our new filter. Wix. And it comes with a new O-ring for the cap, which we'll install. And both of these O-rings, you just put a little lube on them and pop them in. So the new filter just pops into the cap and stays there. And we've got our new O-ring on the cap, and we'll screw it in. And you don't have to kill it. This one was pretty tight. You don't have to kill it. It's not how tight you make it that seals it. It's the O-ring that seals it. Now we got the drain plug back in. Time to put some oil in it. And despite what it says on the cap, I use this in all my cars. Mobil 1 10W30 or whatever synthetic oil you like. But me personally, I like to stick with the 10W30. I use it year round. I have no issues. And I've never, ever had an engine problem. And this is the official motor oil of the NHL. What the hell does the NHL have to do with motor oil? Do they make the pucks out of it? Or maybe they use this in the Zambonis. I don't know. What a stupid thing. Okay, that's that all done. The oil's right up to the proper level. We're good there. Man, if you don't like the weather around here, wait 5 minutes. You'll get something else. It was such a nice week. And now it's not nice. Now we're going to change the coolant. While the coolant is draining, we put our first jug in the transmission. ATF plus 4 Mobil. I'm happy with that. You can get the stuff at the dealer if you want to. Either is fine. And while that's going in, well, we'll have a look on the floor and make sure it's staying in. But so far, so good. So this thing has got a rear heater in it. And it holds a lot, I think 12 or 13 quarts, which is probably about 10 liters. So we're going to drain the radiator, get out what we can, and then I've got a gallon of concentrate from the dealership. This is, of course, the special purple stuff that they've used since 2016. My problem being that normally I would just, the first time I do this, I would dump it, flush it all out, and just put the green Long Life Prestone in it. It lasts for 10 years. It's rated for everything. I've never had a problem with it in my life. But because this thing with the rear heater, it's really hard to get it all cleaned out. So what we're going to do is we'll just do what we do here. Take the plug out of the rad, drain what we can drain out, fill it back up with new stuff, and maybe do it a little more often than the book suggests. Because if you follow the schedule in the book, when they say change the antifreeze, they mean change it, right? All of it. And we're not doing that. So we're going to get about half of it. That'll be good. That'll perk it back up and give it a little more life and get us through. So we'll mix some of this stuff up 50-50. Way down in here, I'm going to put my flash back on. You'll see on top of the thermostat housing, right there is the little bleed valve. We have to open that when we fill this up, and that'll let the air purge out of the cylinder heads. So we leave that open until we see coolant coming out of it, and then we'll close that up. Then we can fill up the rest of the radiator. Oh, and make sure you close the drain valve in the bottom of the rad, eh? Okay, there we can see our little bleeder. And you can see, look at that. Okay, good. We can close that up now. And we can continue filling up the radiator. Well, I think that'll do it for this one. We got a whole bunch more done on this thing. We're still not ready to crank it up yet, but we'll get there. In the next video, we're going to flush some new brake fluid through this thing. And we're going to get it cranked up. And then we've got to get the laptop out and do a fast learn on this transmission and make sure everything's shipshape. Get the fluid level set perfectly. And then it... fingers crossed, provided everything goes okay, she can be turned back loose upon the streets, the mean streets of Uxbridge, Ontario. And with that, I'd like to thank you as always for tuning into the Claremont Classic Garage. I hope you'll come back and see what we're up to next time. And until then, I'm Kevin saying so long for now.